Okay, so a couple things to notice. So what we've got here is a graphic. Let me just go to my Illustrator here. I've got a graphic, and I can duplicate that by going edit. There's a bunch of ways to do everything, but I can get edit copy, and then edit paste. Okay, and I'll get another duplicate of that. I can also hold Option and just drag away from it. Okay, and it'll give me a duplicate. I'm going to select these. I'm going to just change them all slightly. So while this is selected, now notice to change the color. If I have nothing selected right now, and I double click to change the color of this, it doesn't do anything to the actual graphic. It changed down here in my colors, but it didn't actually change this one because I didn't have anything selected. To change it, I've got to have it selected and then change it. Because imagine if you were changing colors and it automatically randomly changed some things on your screen. You wouldn't want that. So you have to identify what you want changed. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to make one green, and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to make one red. Okay. So I've got 3 colors on my screen. Now, these are drawn in they're layered in the order that I made them. So I made this one first, then I made this one second, and you can see it's placed on top, and I made this one third, and that's placed on top of those. Okay, these are all ordered in the order I make them. If I make another one, and I click and drag here, it puts it in front of all of them, because it layers things as I draw them on top of the previous ones. Now, we can change that order. I'm going to change this one to orange. We can change that order by using our selection tool, this selection tool here, and I can right-click whichever I want to move. So say I want to move this. Say I want to move this green one up to the front. Hi, miss. Here's my attendance. Thank you very much. I want to bring this green one up to the front. Now imagine I've got 100 pieces of 100 different graphics, and I want to bring one to the front and edit it. I don't want to have to copy and paste. I don't want to move the position. I just want to bring it closer to the front. I can right click and I can say arrange, either bring to front, so bring all the way to the front, or bring forward one step at a time. And notice the keyboard shortcut is Command bracket, it's like the square bracket. Okay? So I can click it forward, and again, Command bracket, bring it forward. And now it's on top of all of these other ones. Okay, so it's been reordered within that. Okay? Now, if you are familiar with Photoshop, you'll know that there's something called layers. And down here in this palette over here, we have layers. I can create a new layer and put things on top of that. I'm going to make this a circle layer, and I'm going to make a new circle. And that's in front of all of this. I'm going to make it a different color. Selected. Make it blue, or maybe brown. Okay, this is in front of all of those because it's on a separate layer. You can see here, I'm going to make this bigger so you can see a little bit better. Panel options, large, other 30. No, other, hang on, let me just make this bigger. Let's say 50. Okay, so what you can see here is in these layers, I've got this brown circle at the very top layer, right? And then below it on a separate layer, I've got a number of squares. I can bring this pink box up to the front by going right-click, arrange, bring to front, but it stops at this layer. It won't go in front of the brown layer because it is not on that. I can't bring this in front of something that's on a higher layer. I can arrange them within the layer, but I can't bring it in front of a layer that's above it. Okay, so you can see that this layer here, the layer 2, is physically in front of all of these. And no matter what I bring to the front here, arrange, bring to front, it comes to the front of the layer, but it doesn't come in front of this second layer. To do that, I have to rearrange these layers in my layer palette. Everyone look up here, please. If I click this layer 1 and I drag the whole layer in palette up above, I just dragged this, all of this in front of the brown layer. Okay? So now this is behind all of them. If I want this to be in between, for example, the orange and the red, how would I do that? Anyone want to guess? How would I bring this in between the orange and the red?
You can move it backwards.
I can't move it back. Right now it's at the back.
You can right click and send forward 2 times. Oh.
Arrange, bring to front. It's at the front. Why is it stopping here? Why can't I bring this brown thing closer up to here? That's right. This is on its own layer. The circle is on its own layer. If I want to bring it here, in between these two shapes, I've got to bring it to this layer. Okay? Two ways I can do that. I can edit, cut, then click on layer 1 up here, edit, paste, and it's going to put it on this layer. You can see that I dropped it into this layer. It's no longer on that back layer, I moved it up a layer. Okay? And now it's at the very top of this layer. Now I can send it back. So Command left bracket, that's one step back. Command left square bracket, that's another step back. Okay? Or I can right click, arrange, send backwards. And now it's on the same layer, but kind of snuggled in between those objects. Does that make sense? Great. A couple other things while I have this selected. Up in the top here, I've got a stroke or stroke properties. I can bump up the stroke. By default, it was just 1 pixel, or point, I should say. I can bump those up to be thicker, okay, to give it more sort of definition. Okay, I can change those to be much bigger. Okay, and you can see there that I've got some more controls over my strokes. Questions about any of this? No. Okay. Now last class we started to make Homer Simpson's eye. So as a recap for those people who were not here, we'll very quickly do that. So let's select all of this and delete it. Command A, or you can just drag over top of all of it, hit delete on your keyboard. I'm going to delete my extra layer. So I mentioned last class that if you're making something, you have to think of it almost like cardboard cutouts. Every shape that you make has to be a completed shape. You can't just cut out, you can't just draw parts of it. It's got to be a complete shape, as in a cardboard cutout that you were creating. So if I'm making Homer's eye and I drew this on the board, I would need 3 pieces. I would need, let me get my colors right here. I'm going to reset my colors to be a black, a black fill with no stroke. Anyone remember how to make a circle stay a circle instead of an oval? Shift, thank you. We constrain our proportions. Okay. Yes, you can. Yes, you can by holding shift. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make another cutout with a circle, and that's going to be this size, maybe a little bit too big. I'm going to bring it down in size. Okay, and then I'm going to, so that'll be in front, and maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and then finally I'm going to go again, I'm going to make a black circle that's going to be the pupil. So I've got to set my colors to black and white, get rid of my stroke, and make a black pupil. Now each of these, eyes up here please, each of these are separate pieces. And notice that I've included the white here. Even though you could probably do it in an alternate way, you could probably do this with just a stroke and then a black circle. This could be one, I could take this and add a black stroke to it like this, and then bump up this here, right? So that's exactly the same thing. It looks like exactly the same thing, but it's slightly different in terms of the way it works. I want you to do everything as if they're separate elements. It's just easier to stay organized. Okay, so I'm going to put that back as it was. Okay, and I'm going to put it back in its position. Okay, for now, we'll change this as we go. Last thing I want to recap is grouping. If I pick up this eye, if I pick it up by the pupil, I only move the pupil. I don't want to do that. I want to pick up the whole thing. So if I select over all of it, right click and group it, now this is one item. When I pick it up by the pupil, all of it goes together because I grouped it. Okay? And you can have groups within groups if you want to. Okay? Great. I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to play with this, to just sort of kind of, for those people who weren't here, to get a sense of what we've been doing, and then we'll pick up the rest of the lesson in a second.